Hi everyone, it's Kristie here from KP Creatives with another video for Two Scrapbook Friends. We have a lot going on today, but I promise you these 3 slimline cards come together so quickly that I think you are going to love how this layering stencil set from Tailored Expression works. So I've got the list of supplies here. At the end, I changed my mind and decided to use slimline nesting dies. You can get them from Two Scrapbook Friends from many different companies. I happen to have the set from Your Next Die, or of course you could just use your paper trimmer and cut your cardstock down. So lots of options. Please take a screenshot if you'd like to recreate this or put your own twist on it. And I'll pop this up again at the end of the video so you can take a look at it. So as I mentioned, we are going to be using a layering stencil. The layering stencil we're going to be using today is from Tailored Expressions. It's one of their triple slim layering stencils. This is the look that we're going for. So this is called the Boho Summer. There's a set of 4 stencils, and we are going to be creating 3 slimline cards out of these 4 stencils. This set also does come with a clear stamp set. We are not going to be using that today, but you can embellish some of the half circles if you wanted to. That is an option, but I'm not going to be doing that for our project today. We're also going to be using this great set from Tailored Expressions. I love this set. I kind of went crazy in die cutting so many of the sentiments. If you do have a stamp and die set like this and you mass produce die cuts one day, you can just save them in the back of the stamp pocket. That works really well. So this is the Oh Yes You Did stamp and die selection from Tailored Expressions. And I've die cut my sentiments already so that we'll save some time in the video. The inks that I'm going to use for the layering stencil are from Pink Fresh. We're going to go with Sky Blue, Peach Fuzz, Apricot, and Passion Fruit. Now, I don't have I don't have Pink Fresh specific cardstock, so I dug through my Gina K collection and found several colors that matched really well. Now, I could have used my Gina K inks to do the ink blending, but I already had Pink Fresh out, so this is how things evolved for this project today. The coordinating colors for Gina K that I found worked really well were Sky Blue, Peach Fuzz, Apricot, those are the ink colors. Let's try that one more time. The cardstock colors are Ocean Mist, Sandy Beach, Sweet Mango, and Coral Reef, and I thought those were a really good match. The reason I wanted to match the cardstock to the inks is because I saw recently on a video from Kathy Zilski that when she was stacking her die cuts, she stacked them in the same colors of the ink that she used. And I thought that was really cool to add dimension to the stacked die cuts. So we're going to do that for this project, and that's what we're actually going to do first. So I've got my liquid glue. This is the Gina K Connect liquid glue. I've got it in one of the little bottles with the precision tip. So I'm going to start by getting the Ocean Mist cardstock layered up with Sandy Beach. Get those together. Then we're going to layer in Sweet Mango. Now, this is something that, the receiver of your card may or may not notice, but I just thought, what a cool technique to be able to do this. It would be really neat if you really wanted to build up dimension and have like a full rainbow of cardstock underneath. That would be fun. I thought for my first time, I would start with this layer of 4 and see how it goes. So this will allow our cardstock to really set up nice for our sentiment, and we will be good to go. So there we go. All 4 layers of the cardstock lined up that will match our ink colors. And then I'm just going to put one more layer of glue on the top for the sentiment. Now I've stamped the sentiment on Hammermill cardstock using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And I thought that would go really nice on top as a, neutral bold sentiment. And there we go. So this layering stencil, as I mentioned, will make 3 cards. I've got 4 sentiments here, so we'll pick which ones we're going to use as we go through the project, but we'll let that dry, set up. That'll be nice and thick. It'll actually feel more like chipboard than just cardstock at the end, which I really like. So that is great. And I'll just put the cap back on the glue so we don't get any blockages in that great precision tip. Okay, so let's get rolling with the inks. I really like using the Pink Fresh inks for these layering stencils. They work really well. You could use any inks that you have in your collection. My only caution to you is if you are using oxides or pigment inks, you need to make sure you are giving them time to dry between each application, because they will stay wet longer and you want to avoid that. So the instructions in the Tailored Expression guide are to cut the paper to a certain size. I actually don't follow the guide that they say because for me it becomes too finicky. So if it becomes too finicky for you, what I recommend is you take the measurement of the layering stencil itself and cut your paper to that size. For me, that works way easier. I know I can tuck my cardstock right into the corner of my waffle flower stencil mat. If you're using the Make Art Station, I don't use that tool, but I think like same drill, right? You tuck it in nice and tight, or use the magnets that they have, and you're all set. So you're gonna get that tucked in nice and tight to the corner. Then I'm gonna take the same thing with the stencil. Now this is gonna be hard to see, but the Tailored Expression stencils have the numbers in the corner. So you can see this is Tailored Expressions, product number, and then number 1. So I know I'm starting with number 1. Tuck it in. No need for pixie tape or other tape for this. This is a pretty forgiving stencil, so you should be all set to go. I'm going to start by inking up the sky blue. And I'm going to dab a little bit off on my media mat and make sure we're back in the corner and get to blending. So I really like using these layering stencils. I think it's a really cool way to get awesome patterns on your cardstock. And if it's something you've never done before, it's a really neat way to use your supplies and use stencils in a way that maybe you haven't before, and get some great pattern paper. I mean, basically what you're able to do with the layering stencils that you can get nowadays is create your own pattern paper, which is so cool, because then you can customize it to your recipient with their favorite colors, or you can make it into, you know, the colors of a theme for a celebration they might be having. Options are endless. So I really, really love that. And of course, you don't have to use all of the layers within the stencil set. So this one, for example, is a very mod looking, it reminds me kind of like watching like reruns of Mary Tyler Moore and the style on that show. So this kind of has a really nice like 70s feel to it. And you know, you don't have to use every single stencil. You could stop at, you know, 2 if you wanted or whatever. So lots of options here. So getting this nice and inked up with the sky blue. The blender brushes that I am using are from Gina K. This is the set of brushes that I have that I've designated for my dye inks. I have the Tailored Expression brushes, but I got them first, and at that time the full ink set that I had was Distress Oxides. So I just keep one set of brushes for dye inks and one for oxides. And that seems to work pretty good. And we're just on this last section here with the blue. And then we're gonna move on to Peach Fuzz. One of the reasons I really love to use the Pink Fresh inks when I'm using layering stencils is because Pink Fresh has taken the guesswork out for us of how colors match together. And I absolutely love that, because sometimes when we're working on projects, especially like these layering stencils, you might not know like which colors in your collection are going to go together. So what I really like about the Pink Fresh ones is the ink cubes, especially the little ones that you can see we're using here, come in packs of 4. And the packages of 4 run from the lightest in the color family to the darkest. So you don't have to guess in terms of tones of color. For example, Sky Blue and Peach Fuzz are both the lightest colors in the color families that they belong to. So I know that the tone of those colors is going to go well together. Whereas if I took the lightest in the blue, so Sky Blue, and went with the darkest in this orange section, that probably wouldn't look so great, because the tones of those colors, I'm not sure if tone is the right word. I'm not a color expert, but I think you get what I'm saying, right? Like the tones wouldn't go together. So it's really nice the way that Pink Fresh has organized their inks to be able to take that guesswork out of it, which I really love. And I am grateful that they did that, because it really makes it nice to use a lot of these different layering stencils that are now available to us as crafters, because you don't have to spend that time thinking about, is this going to go together? Is that going to work? Etc., etc. So I've just moved on to the second stencil, and I'm using the Peach Fuzz ink. And we're getting this nice and inky into our stencil. If you've used dye inks before, particularly the Peach Fuzz and the Gina K dye inks, you'll note that they go on a little bit darker than they end up drying to. So that's something to be aware of. I really like that about the inks, because it means when you're using them for ink blending, the blend just gets better the longer the ink sits, which is really nice, because we all want to get that perfect seamless blend, and you can definitely get it with both of these brands of inks, which is really fantastic. So we're almost wrapping up here with Peach Fuzz, and then we will move on to Apricot for that little bit of a deeper orange. Kind of wanted to continue that fun mod look, kind of like subway tile-ish look for this project, which I thought was fun. Not normally a color palette that I would choose, but you know, sometimes it's fun to step outside your color comfort zone and pick something a little bit different, which is cool. So we just got one corner left here. Need a little bit more ink to finish it off. And we are good to go. So that is layer number 2. So now you're going to see how this pattern is starting to come together. I like to just set my stencils off to the side, and because these dye inks wash off of them so easily, I will just put them in, run them underwater when I'm finished. I know Carolyn has shared that she was able to find isopropyl alcohol in a spritzer. I think she got that just at the dollar store, and that's super handy because you could just spray these stencils right after, and it would take away the ink color. So that's an option for you as well. So now I'm going in with this deeper orange, the apricot, bringing a little more vibrancy to the project here. The other great thing about these layering stencils is you know, with traditional stencils, you stencil one and you generally, sometimes you get more, but generally you get one card out of it, right? These layering stencils, you usually, I mean, at least two, sometimes up to four. Like some of the Tailored Expressions ones use a whole sheet of like 8.5 by 11 paper and you get 4 cards out of it. So, I mean, just so great to mass produce cards, or, you know, if you were using this for the background for invitations, that would be great. Borders on a scrapbook page, you know, you have so many options to be able to create these pretty quickly. And I love that companies are doing that and looking at options for us to become even more efficient in our crafting, which means we don't spend less time, we spend more time crafting, but we get to crank out more, which is really fun. So just almost wrapping up with apricot, and then we're going to bring in this beautiful passion fruit. Passion fruit is one of my favorite colors in the Pink Fresh line. I love it. It's like a pinky red, lots of fun. So one more section here. And we are good with stencil number 3. Excellent. So we're really going to punch up the color with stencil 4 here. Just make sure our paper's in the corner. Pop that on. Close up the apricot. And let's get rolling with passion fruit. Nice juicy color. So here is the final peel and reveal of our Boho summer layering stencils. And look at that, our custom pattern paper that now we can cut down to use on our cards. So initially I was just going to cut this with my paper trimmer, but I really like the detailed stitching on the Your Next Die nesting slimline dies. So I am going to use that instead. So off camera, I am going to die cut each of these to this size, and then we'll mat it on some colored cardstock that I already have cut out. So I will pause the video, I'll do the die cutting, and then come back and we will put the final cards together. Okay, so now we've got our 3 slimline card panels cut out of the Your Next Die cuts, and I'm going to layer them onto the Ocean Mist cardstock from Gina K. So I'm just going to get out the liquid glue and we will layer these up. I like using liquid glue for this because we get a little bit of wiggle room. And we can maneuver the layers together as needed, which is great. If you used score tape or another strong adhesive like that, you really don't get the play time. So with the liquid glue, you can kind of wiggle it around if you need to. And that looks great. Get these all set up for the card bases. The finished card size that we're making today is 3 inches by 6 inches. So it's a little bit tinier than a traditional slimline, but I played around with this stencil set previously, and I find that makes a really nice card size. So that's what we are going to go with. Okay, so there we have our fully layered card panels. So next we're going to decide which sentiments we want to use and get these adhered to their card bases. So I've got 3 of the card bases of the Neenah Classic Crest 110 pound Solar White cardstock. We will get the panels with the glue all set up, then layer these together. And then the last thing we'll do is choose which of those great sentiments from that Tailored Expression Oh Yes You Did set that we want to use. So the other reason I like to use the 3x6 finish size is it's super easy to line up the die cuts on that size of card panels. So I've used, I think, the second biggest for the blue and the second biggest for the actual pattern there within that Your Next Die set. And it's just super simple and easy to layer up. One of the great things I love about using that set. Now that I look at the blue, I kind of wish I would have picked another color for my cardstock, because it's a little bit, remember we were talking about tones earlier, this tone is a little bit different than the blue that is on with the ink. But you know what, I think it'll all come together in the end, but it is a little different. So I probably should have used a different, the Gina K inks maybe, or maybe even one of like her blue denim cardstock or something like that might have been a little bit better. So we're going to bring in our sentiments again and choose which ones of these great layered sentiments we want to use on these cards. I think I'm going to keep them all landscape. And I think we'll go with these three. So we'll get these all ready to adhere to the card fronts. You can't beat these precision tips when you're trying to you know, put glue on delicate sentiments. I'm just going to push that down. If you have you know, acrylic blocks hanging around, good to set them on top. They really helped the glue to adhere between the many layers of paper we have there. So there you can see all of the layers and the colors that match the ink, which I just love that. I was so interested when I saw that on Kathy's video that I had to try it. So I'm glad that this little project gave me the opportunity to do that. So next we got that You Are Amazing. And that looks really good. And then this really versatile sentiment, Just a Note. I really like this sentiment because you can use it for anything. You can use this for a birthday, thinking of you, get well, like truly just hello, anything you like. Just wiggle that just a little. And there we go. So we have our 3 finished cards using that fantastic Boho layering stencil set from Tailored Expressions, using the Pink Fresh inks, some Gina K coordinating cardstock, and I really love those sentiments from Tailored Expressions. So here again is the list of supplies that we used in today's video. I really hope you'll have some fun trying out layering stencils. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.